William Holden told everything in the note he left behind. And it changed everything we thought we knew. William Holden was born William Franklin Beadle Jr.B. on April 17, 1918 in O'Fallon, Illinois. Holden grew up in Pasadena, California after his family moved there when he was young. His dad was a chemist and his mom was a school teacher. It was a regular middle-class life that helped him become disciplined and humble. Even though first wanted to study chemistry, life had different plans for him. While he was going to Pasadena Junior College, someone who found actors for movies noticed him. This led to him trying out for movies at Paramount Pictures. It didn't take long before Hollywood knew they had found something really special, a man who could show both toughness and kindness at the same time. Holden started becoming famous in the late 1930s, but his big movie role came in 1939 with Golden Boy, where he acted alongside Barbara Stanwyck. The story was about a young violin player who had to choose between art and becoming a boxer. This was like Holden's own struggle between wanting success and staying true to himself, and people really loved his acting. Stanwyck was already a big star, and she helped head the young actor by teaching him and helping him feel less nervous in front of camera. The movie made him super famous overnight, and he quickly became one of Hollywood's most exciting new actors. But even with early success, it would take Holden several years to really make it big because World War II stopped his rise. He served bravely in the US Army Air Forces, pausing his career to help with the war effort. This showed how much he cared about doing his duty for his country. After coming back from the war, Holden had to work hard to get famous again in a movie world that was quickly changing. But by the 1950s, he had changed from being just a good-looking new guy into a real powerful actor on screen. His role in Sunset Boulevard in 1950 as Joe Gillis, a screenwriter who was struggling and got mixed up in a sad relationship with an old silent movie star, was a big turning point. The movie was a dark and negative look at Hollywood itself, and Holden's acting was amazing. The way he showed being negative, sensitive, and torn about what was right perfectly showed how America was changing after the war. They all got him his first Academy Award nomination and made sure everyone knew he was one of the best actors around. Holden's biggest winning moment came in 1953 when he won the Academy Award for Best Actor for his acting in Stalag 17, where he played Sergeant J. Sefton, a negative but heroic prisoner of war. In the end, the movie mixed humor, suspense, and tough moral questions, which was perfect for what Holden was good at. He had a special ability to make negative attitudes seem human and to show the hurt feelings hiding under the tough act. Movie critics said his acting was one of the best of the whole decade, and audiences loved him as an everyday hero, flawed but someone they could really relate to. Through the 1950s, Holden became one of the highest paid and most wanted stars in Hollywood, appearing in famous movies like Sabrina 1954 with Audrey Hepburn and Humphrey Bogart, The Country Girl in 1954 with Grace Kelly, and Picnic in 1955, where his moody attractiveness made audiences around the world fall for him. In the 1960s and 1970 seconds, Holden kept growing as an actor, taking on more grown-up and complicated roles that showed his own life experiences. Movies like The Bridge on the River Kwai in 1957, The Wild Bunch in 1969, and Network in 1976 showed his amazing ability to play different kinds of roles. In Wild Bunch, Holden played Pike Bishop, an older outlaw who was dealing with the end of his time, a role that was like Holden's own thoughts on getting older, being famous, and Hollywood caging. In Network, he played Max Schumacher, a TV executive who was disappointed and stuck making bad moral choices, which got him another Academy Award nomination and proved he was still really important. Holden's acting in these later years was real in a way that came from actual living life. He wasn't just pretending to be the tired, disappointed man anymore. He was that person, and audiences could really feel it. Holden was also known for loving adventure and really caring about nature. When he wasn't filming, he was really into protecting wildlife and spent a lot of his later life working to save endangered animals. He helped start the Mount Kenya Game Ranch in Africa, where he spent many years working to keep animal homes safe. His love for conservation was real and he never got tired of it, and it became one of the most important things about him. Friends and people he worked with often remembered how humble and quietly generous he was. These traits held his down-to-earth character even after being famous for decades. William Holden's personal life was just as complicated and interesting as she's movie career, and it often showed the drama and strong feelings that were part of Hollywood's golden age. He was married to actress Brenda Marshall from 1941 until they got divorced 3 decades later in 1971. Their marriage was seen as one of Hollywood's longer-lasting marriages at the time, going through Holden's amazingras from a promising young actor to an Academy Award-winning star. Brenda Marshall, who was known for her work in movies like The Seahawk in 1940 and Captains of the Clouds in 1942, had already become known as a beautiful actress before marrying Holden. The couple got married during a crazy time in world history, just as the United States was going into World War II, and Holden soon left for military service, joining the Army Air Forces. Their marriage, like many in Hollywood, was often hard because of the demands of being famous, long filming times, and everyone always watching them. Together, Holden and Marshall had 2 sons, Peter and Scott Holden, who both grew up around Hollywood famous people. Their family was a mix of fancy living and normal life. Holden, even though he was a major star, kept his privacy and often went to their home in the Hollywood Hills or their Palm Springs getaway to get away from all the attention. He also became a loving stepfather to Marshall's daughter, Virginia, from her earlier marriage to actor Richard Gaines, and Holden legally adopted her. This showed his deep sense of being loyal and responsible to his family, even though his career took a lot of his time and energy. And even with their marriage problems, Holden and Marshall often went to events together, looking like a perfect Hollywood couple, but behind closed doors. The marriage reportedly had a lot of emotional distance, and they wanted different things. As Holden became super famous in the 1950s with movies like Sunset Boulevard and Stalag 17, the pressure of success and his growing problem with drinking alcohol started to hurt their relationship. After 30 years of marriage, the couple got divorced in 1971, though people said they still respected each other after that. In the early 1960s, Holden's life changed again when he met the beautiful French actress Capucine, who used to be Amadelle and had smoothly started acting in films. They met while filming The Lion in 1962, an African adventure movie filmed on location in Kenya. The exciting place and hard filming schedule brought them close together, and soon they started dating. Capucine was elegant and mysterious. She was known for her classy beauty and thoughtful personality. She seemed touched at Holden's restless nature and loved traveling, art, and quiet talks just like he did. These things made their connection different from many of Holden's earlier relationships. The chemistry in the movie was obvious, and audiences and gossip writers all guessed that the passion scene in the film was just like their real-life relationship. Holden and Capucine worked together again 2 years later for The Seventh Dawn in 1964, filmed in Malaysia, which made rumors grow even more that their off-screen relationship was getting more serious. Reports say that their relationship lasted about 2 years and was filled with times of deep love but also fighting. Holden's battle with alcoholism, which had started to control his life and career, was reportedly a big reason for problems between them. Capucine, who was known for being independent and emotionally sensitive, found it harder and harder to deal with Holden's unpredictable moods and self-destructive habits. Even with this, she stayed one of the few people who really cared about him beyond just him being a celebrity. Even after their romantic relationship ended, Holden and Capucine stayed friends for life, keeping a bond based on respecting each other and understanding each other. Friends and people they knew said that Capucine kept talking nicely about Holden long after their romance ended, and she admired his smarts, kindness, and sense of humor. She often said he was one of the most important men in her life, and Holden also really valued her friendship during some of his loneliest years. Their connection lasted through decades of personal struggles and professional wins, surviving even as both dealt with the darker sides of being famous and addiction. When Holden tragically died in 1981, Capucine was said to be really upset by losing him, mourning a man who had deeply touched her life. In 1972, Holden started a 9-year relationship with actress Stephanie Powers and got her interested in helping animals. When the world lost William Holden in November 1981, Hollywood wasn't just sad but also really confused about what happened. The official report said that Holden died alone in his Santa Monica apartment after accidentally falling and hitting his head while he was drunk, but after a while, rumors started going around that Holden had left behind a note, a private confession that told about his struggles, regrets, and the emotional pain that had followed him in his later years. According to people closest to him, including his long-term partner Stephanie Powers, that note changed the way many people saw the beloved actor who had once been the perfect example of charm. Years of his life later said that Bill carried a lot of pain inside him. He was a man who questioned everything: his career, his choices, and even his purpose. According to her, the note Holden left behind wasn't a suicide letter but was more like an honest confession of his heart and mind. A real look at the man behind the legend. In the letter, Holden reportedly wrote about being disappointed with himself, his battles with alcoholism, his fear of getting old, and his deep sadness over relationships that had fallen apart. "He loved deeply, but not always wisely," he wrote. "The bottle has been both my companion and my curse." These words, Stephanie later said, stayed with her and bothered her long after he died. For Holden, alcohol had been both a way to escape and something that slowly destroyed him. It made the pain of thinking about himself go away, but also pushed him away from the people who cared most about him. Even with his incredible achievements from Sunset Boulevard and Stalag 17 to the bridge on the River Kwai, he confessed in the note that he often felt empty inside. Fame, he admitted, had never brought him the peace he was looking for. Holden's relationship with Stephanie Powers was one of the few things that made him genuinely happy in his latter years. They both loved protecting wildlife and often went to Africa where they worked together to help endangered species. In the note, Holden talked about her with love, calling her the light hat reminded me what it means to care, but he also felt guilty that he hadn't always been the man she deserved. Stephanie later said that Holden's confession showed a humility and honesty that broke my heart. He knew he was flawed, but he also knew he wanted to do better. And that was the man I loved. The most eye-opening part of Holden's note, according to people who have seen parts of it or heard about it from close friends, was what he thought about death. "I am not afraid of death," he wrote. "I am afraid of not having lived enough, of wasting time chasing illusions." These words gave a completely new meaning to the tragedy of his death, while the world saw it as a stupid accident. The note showed that Holden had been thinking deeply about the meaning of life, loss, and what fame costs. It was like he knew his time was running out and he wanted to leave behind something honest, a truth without glamour and illusions. Stephanie Powers later admitted that reading the letter changed how she saw everything, including her own purpose. "Bill's honesty forced me to look inward," she said. "It reminded me that behind every movie star, there's a human being just trying to make sense of it all." In the years after his death, Powers spent much of her life continuing conservation work they started together through the William Holden Wildlife Foundation. For her, it was the best way to honor his memory and the words he left behind. To this day, Holden's note is mostly kept private, kept from the public out of respect for his legacy and because of how personal it is. But the few details people know about it have changed how people remember him, not just as a Hollywood icon but as a man with depth who could be hurt and what thought deeply about things. His final words weren't about giving up but about thinking back and trying to come to terms with a lifetime of wins and mistakes. "We all stumble," Holden wrote. "What matters is that we try to understand why." That haunting confession turned his death from just an accident into a moment that revealed something important. It pulled back the shiny cover off stardom and showed a man who was, at his core, deeply human. William Holden's note, that last private look into his soul, didn't ruin his legacy. It made it deeper. It reminded the world that even the brightest stars struggle with dark thoughts and that truth, once spoken, can change everything.